Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. In this video, we are going to set up the project file for our prayer time and also write the first unit test. Let's get started. So I'm using IntelliJ 2023. Feel free to use whatever you want. Here I'm going to name the project Refactoring prayer time. I'm going to use Java because you need Java as the first file. I'm going to use Gradle bit script. And also I'm going to use Gradle. And for that, I'm going to use the DSL for Kotlin. And then here are the group ID, chauffeur units, no problem. Yeah, we can create a project. Now try to run to see if everything is working fine. We're going also to see if Kotlin is working fine. We need to do setup for Kotlin. Here in the test, we are going to try to create a unit test. And here exactly Kotlin is not configured. Just hit configure here and then use all modules and then check a version you'd like to work with. I'm going to work with 1.8.10. Okay, hit this one and it will include several stuff here. And here I think we need Java 11 for that reason and just hit run. It built successfully. Now let's try to run our test to see if everything's working fine. I'm going to use JUnit 5 in this course. You can use JUnit 4, for example. I need just one test to see if everything is working fine. Awesome, everything's fine. I can delete this file. Let's grab our file of the prayer times. Here at the prayer time, go to prayer time code and here check the Java version. As I told you, there are multiple things. You can do the refactoring with whatever language you like. Check a browse and check the prayer time Java. Here I'm going to copy the name. Here I'm going to create a file under this main thing, right? It will be like that, prayer time. And then I'm going to copy everything in this block, including the copyright block and everything, and paste it here. See if there is any error. Okay, remove that package. Don't need it. And I believe they do have here a main function. Let's run this main function to see if everything is fine. And exactly, it is working fine. Here you can see the Fajr at which time, the sunrise which time, Dhuhr, Asr, and so on. So the code is working fine. So I think we can delete this file. And let's start with the first task, which is creating test. Now let's talk about why we need unit tests. Here we are in a project and we want to do some refactoring, right? And in order to do refactoring and in order to not mess up with anything here in this code, because really right now we don't actually know this code by heart, right? There is a lot of stuff here. For example, if I change this, let's say there is accidental typo and I change this from 6 to 5, what would happen? Well, the code will still run, right? The code will still run. But it will provide something. But we don't know actually whether it was correct or not. So at this moment for the code, like we pretend that everything is working fine. So we need to capture that behavior in the code. We capture it by writing unit tests. So we are going to cover our code base with some unit tests. And then after we have good unit tests, we can start refactoring. Here is one rule though. There is something called automatic refactoring, right? For example, if I want to do this night portion, for example, I want to rename it. Usually in the IDE, there is something called automatic refactoring. You can go here, refactor, and there is refactor this, for example. You see a lot of stuff. For example, you can change the signature, automatically rename it. Like this kind of automatic refactoring doesn't require unit tests because they are somehow bug-free, which is a good thing. If I want to include a parameter here, I can use that thing, which is change signature. I can add signature here, do the default value, and the IDE will do the job of fixing all the call stack for this function. This is pretty fine if there are automatic refactoring, but for manual refactoring, we need some safety net, and this will be using unit tests. Okay, so I believe there is a lot of code here, right? And I think exactly almost 1000 line. And here, as you can see, the code is a little bit, well, it's not that good. It is working. This is a good thing, but it includes a lot of comments. So I'm going to deal with comments. There are a lot of initialization of the variables. For example, we do have this calculation method here. This calculation method, we do have some set and get. So we are setting the calculation method using this method in the set, but we don't actually need that internally. We need that for the external part, of course. So as you can see, there are a lot of stuff. We are going to refactor the API and many stuff. But first, we need unit tests. We won't touch anything unless we have unit tests or unless we do have some automatic refactoring, okay? So before doing anything, I need to refactor this name to something more meaningful. Right now, it's named prayer time, but it's calculating the prayer times. So here we are going to do, of course, Shift F6, prayer time calculator. This is much better. Are going to convert this later on to Kotlin. We don't need to do that right now unless we do have some unit tests. So let's create the tests. Here for the tests, I'm going to write them with Kotlin. It's normal. I can test Java code with Kotlin code. And here I'm going just to do an exploration on the API to check how I can get some values. Here I'm going to create a test. I'm going to generate a test with generate 5. It will be like given some input, but I'm going to see if, I'm going to check if the output is correct, if the times are correct. And here we are going to check our code, what is producing, and then put it here as a result. This is called characterization test, or something we call it, as David Farley called them, approval tests. All right, are going to write them by hand. So we are going to explore the API. I think we are going to create an object prayer time, of course, and we are going to call it prayer time calculator. We are going to create that object. And here I'm going to check in the main what are doing. In the main, what are doing exactly, we are creating the object, and then we are setting some kind of time format and calculation method and something called as a heuristic. This is the one of the shadow, if you remember, and also higher latitudes. And then we are doing the following stuff, offsets of the time, right? Then we are creating a date. We are creating a calendar and setting with date to now. Then we are actually triggering the prayer time, get prayer times. Usually this method will be renamed also. We are giving it the inputs and then are getting the names. And then we are checking the different stuff here. We are just outputting them. So here's exactly what we are going to do. We are trying to create the same thing. Let's copy this one, copy them exactly. So here we have this set time format. You can create it like that. Same thing here, same thing here, and same thing here. Right, this time 12, I think it's private. You can't access it. So what does it mean, this time 12? This time 12, 24, and NS and floating, it's actually some format for the time. We are going to tell the calculator how you can give us the time, right? Here there is 24 format, 12-hour format, 12-hour without suffix like PM and AM, and this is floating number. I believe we are setting those value here because this is an int. So 0 for 24, 1 for 12, 2 for 12 NS. This is primitive obsession. We are using ints exactly to denote the time format. We are going to refactor that. Same thing is happening for adjusting method, highlight, heuristic method, and also calculation method. So we are going to work with those numbers as they are, and then we are going to refactor them. We need some tests first to check this. Okay, so here I'm going to use 1. And for this one, I'm going to check what is the value. It is 0, so it is fine. I'm going to use 0. For Chef AI, I think it is also 0. For angle-based, it is 3, right? This is kind of the setup. We can do that in Kotlin in pretty much a good way. You can do it like following. You can do it like that, and then I can select multiple cursors, and then I can stop that cursor and put them everything here. This is much fun. Awesome. After creating this, we need some latitude, longitude, and time zone. Here for this thing, we are going to pass them as they are. Okay. Time zone, it's fine to use like this double values. This is not primitive obsession because actually this value are double. Same thing for the time zone. Here we do have this offset. We are going to tune this offset. It's actually 0, so I don't think it's doing something interesting. Let's copy this one, creating a date, nice, and calendar, and set it, it's time to now. Now I think we can do prayers times dot get prayer times. I think this method, this method is private. Wow, here we need to change that to public. We have to, because I think he was using that only the main, but this needs to be public, otherwise how the people can access your prayer time. So get prayer times, and here we are going to give it the calendar, which is our cal. And the different values, I'm going to copy the exact value here. So here is the call of the method. Here is what we are testing of our system under test. We can create a result. Let's call it result. And then we need to compare them. Here's the trick. You are going to do an assert equal. And you are going to, like, what is the result type? The result is an array list of string. Okay? So you are going to compare it against an array list of string. Or maybe you can use assert equal arrays. Arrays equal. Here we are going to convert this into an array, and this one, like what we are expecting, we're going to expect our array of values, right? So we're going to do nothing here. We are going just to launch it. It will fail, of course, but it will give us the value for which the test will pass. I think we are going to print them. Test is not passing actually. but here we get the values. As you can see, I can pass them here. So these are the values here. I can run my test. Like this value, we got them from the test, right? Exactly, we do have unit tests that given some values, it is asserting that our prototype is calculating the value exactly. So here you might think that, okay, our test is running, we are protected, right? Let's start refactoring, but actually we cannot start refactoring because of two main problems. I'm going to talk about these two main problems in the next video, so see you there.